Aloha, Penn Nation. What's up, guys? You're now tuned into yet another edition of BJPenn.com Radio, the fighter's voice. As always, I'm your host, Jake Hinch. Had a bit of a hiatus there, but we are glad to be back with more awesome content and more great conversations. We've got two guests for this episode. We're going to kick things off with American Kickboxing Academy, founder and head coach, mentor to many incredible athletes in the sport of mixed martial arts, Javier Mendez. Javi's going to join us and preview the return of Cain Velasquez as he's set to face Francis Ngannou. We'll discuss the future of Daniel Cormier, Khabib Nurmagomedov as well. Always a pleasure to speak with Javi. And then our second guest for this episode recently returned to combat sports, was very successful, won a title in bare knuckle boxing, a sport that was tailor-made for this gentleman, if you ask me, and many others, Leonard "Bad Boy" Garcia. So let's waste no time. We'll jump right into it. BJPenn.com Radio, the fighter's voice. First up, Javier Mendez. All right, Penn Nation, please welcome back to the show, founder and head coach of the world-famous American Kickboxing Academy and mentor to countless champions in combat sports, the one and only Javier Mendez. Thanks as always for taking the time to speak with us today, Javi. How was the trip down to Phoenix?
Trip down to Phoenix was awesome. It was only a little under 2 hours, and anything under 2 hours is fantastic for me. I hate being on planes.
Nice short flight right down there to Arizona. Phoenix, Arizona, of course, being the stage that is set for UFC's debut on ESPN, and one of the most highly anticipated comebacks in MMA's history, as your longtime student and friend Cain Velasquez returns following a 2.5-year layoff to face Francis Ngannou. First things first, Javi. Obviously, everybody is buzzing about Cain, but how excited are you personally to see one of your star pupils finally get back to action?
I wouldn't call it excited. I'm just anxious to reclaim that crown, and I believe he's going to do it, and so I'm anxious to see, the challenge is big, the first time out, fighting the guy that I happen to think is the most dangerous out of all the guys for us, with the exception of DC, because that'll never happen. But yeah, fight to me the most dangerous guy on the first trip back. It's a challenge,
Now, you've told me in previous conversations that Cain coming back was just a matter of time, and now here we are. The camp is done. It's fight week. How was training camp for Cain this time around, in your opinion? Was it business as usual for you guys?
No, training camp was different. It was him being smarter, him calling us and saying, "Hey, I'm taking the day off. I'm feeling tired. Hey, I'm only going to do this today." So it's been great. He's stronger than ever. His weight is on point. His mind is on point. His body's on point. Everything's done right this time around, and he's learned how to take care of himself a lot better than ever. The rest is, been 2.5 years off, and most of that time he was spent with his family, healthy, but, he just wanted to focus on the family due to the fact that, his contract was not where he wanted to be. So, hey, if the contract's not going to change, then I'm going to spend time with my family, because he loved doing that anyway. So, but now everything's perfect, his newborn's 1 year old now, and he spent all the time he needed with him, and now he's ready to go. He's ready to, get out there and see if he still has what it takes to get that title, and I believe he does.
Now, it sounds to me like in our previous conversations we've talked about, Cain kind of overtraining. It sounds to me like he's taken the time to notice when to take the foot off the pedal now, for this camp anyway.
Well, it's not just for this camp. He's learned, after multiple things, to learn how to take care of his body better.
Right.
He knows more so now. So no, he's doing really well in that department. And because I can't read the guys, sometimes I can when I see overtraining and I make them stop it. For the most part, I can't read it, and unless it's to that. In other words, when it's to that point where it's too much, that's when I notice it. But they know it before I do, so he's learned to do that. So it's fantastic, and he's also learned to do what he wants to do, what his body tells him to do, and that's smart too. So he's learned to train very hard.
Now, as you had mentioned with the contract situation, Cain had said something interesting yesterday about possibly leaving MMA if the UFC hadn't made him a good offer. Was there any point when this comeback was being planned that you guys had doubts about the deal actually getting done?
I never did. I'm never involved in the negotiations, so I don't know what went back and forth. But I knew that whatever the deal was, that they would want him back because he's a very important part in the heavyweight division. He's an exciting heavyweight, and people love seeing him. And so, no, I have no doubt that they would come and work it out. And they have. He's happy with his contract. What it is, I don't know, so I can't speak on something I don't know. But he's very happy with it.
Of course. Following the kind of layoff that Cain has had, and with all the talk about whether or not he'd actually return over the past couple years, I'd imagine that a lot of people are wondering if we'll see the Cain Velasquez that we are all accustomed to, or if this time away will affect his performance at all. However, I'm willing to bet that not only has he not lost a step, but we might see the best Cain to ever step foot in the octagon.
Yeah, he hasn't lost a step. He's actually smarter. He's technically better, so stronger. So, no, you're going to see a better, improved version of Cain. You're not going to see the old Cain. Expect a new Cain. Expect a better version of what you've seen in the past. That's what you will expect. That's what I'm expecting. And that's what he's expecting. So, everybody will be in for a treat. He's a great one for a reason, and he's going to prove it again why he is the great one. If not the greatest, I think he's the greatest, but, time will tell when everybody will realize he is the greatest.
Now, all that being said, when you're working with an athlete the caliber of Cain, there's really no need for a tune-up fight, right?
There's always need for a tune-up fight. I would always love a tune-up fight, but Cain doesn't care who he fights. He doesn't choose the opponents. You put him in front of him, tell me how to beat him, and I'm going to kick his ass. That's his attitude. So
right.
It doesn't matter. For me, it does. I want easy fights. So
right,
if I can give Cain 20 easy fights, then I'll fucking do it. But he doesn't care. He's here. He's a fighter, and he'll fight anybody. He's not afraid of any man. He believes he's the best, and whoever you put in front of him, he's going to beat him. That's his attitude, and that's a great attitude to have.
It certainly is, and as you were talking about, he's truly one of the most dominant athletes in the game, well-rounded with the best cardio in the division. But he's making his return against one of the scariest punchers we've ever seen. Give us your thoughts on this matchup against Ngannou.
He's the most dangerous guy that we could have gotten. He's the only guy that has the best chance, and because of that power, and that's it. But Cain's too smart. He's not going to fall trap for that, So he's going to do what he needs to do to nullify that, and it's no secret, He's going to take his ass down, and he's going to beat the crap out of him. There's no secret about that. And if he gets up, he's going to take him down again. If he gets up, he'll do it again. So it's just a matter of how many times Ngannou's going to have the energy to stand up before he gets smashed. That's all.
Right. Yeah.
Smash him,
That segues.
He's got the one power. He's got the power shot that we're banking. It ain't going to happen.
Yeah, that segues into my next question perfectly. The obvious and easiest path to victory is the pace and wrestling of Cain, but he's also a very talented striker as well. So it sounds like we should expect to see a ground and pound mauling in this fight, or would you guys possibly look to expose some holes in Francis's stand-up game as well?
No, we're going to have to strike with him too. There's no way possible. If he goes just with the mindset we're just going to wrestle, it's pretty stupid. That's not MMA. Cain is got a high IQ in MMA, so Cain isn't going to just go wrestle with him. No, he's going to punch his face. He's going to kick his legs. He's going to play MMA and then can take his butt down and drown him. That's what he does.
Right. Now, a big win on Sunday. Cain is right back there at the top where he belongs, but his teammate and friend DC has the title. Have you guys discussed what the plan is moving forward? Is Cain focused on the title at this point?
Nah, there's no need to discuss because him and DC will never fight, and DC is going to retire, soon. So DC will have one fight, maybe two. Who knows? And DC is going to call it quits, and I'm crossing my fingers that DC gets Brock, the fight he wants, and then he'll ride off into the sunset like he wants it, become the great commentator and host for shows that he is. I mean, that guy's destined to be in the spotlight, and that's announcing. And hosting shows. That's what DC is all about, and then he's going to continue coaching. And hopefully I can keep him as a coach at the gym, but he's such a popular guy that media wants him everywhere, so we'll see.
Yeah, he truly is a very, very talented commentator. But, the reason I ask, obviously they would never fight, but I was wondering, what the game plan is in regards to if DC decides to take 2 fights, does Cain take another fight before looking at that title shot when DC retires, or do we just kind of got to let the dust settle at this point?
No, knowing Cain, if DC decides to take another fight, he's not going to want to settle and wait for something to come up. He'll take another fight. That's what Cain is. He'll take another fight. He's not opposed to that. It's just a matter of, like you said, when the dust settles, we'll see what happens. But we're talking a little bit far ahead because we first got to get past Ngannou. And,
absolutely.
I believe we will, but we got to get past Ngannou, and then we'll see what happens. But I look at it as in the perfect ending. I look at it DC stepping down and Cain taking over.
Okay, now, obviously, we're talking hypotheticals here, but there's been some talk about Cain fighting Jon Jones. Cain had said a few days ago that he'd be interested in that matchup, and he's confident that he could defeat Jones. Is that a fight you see happening, or is that matchup out of the question until DC hangs them up for good, in your opinion?
No, I see that fight happening. I would love for Jones and Cain to go at it. I think Cain will smash him, and I really mean that. So I believe that fight would be great. It would be great for everybody. Everybody loved to see that. And I'd love to see that fight. I'm all for that one.
Right, big payday for both guys, and definitely a great matchup. Huge
payday. 2 great fighters. To me, 2 great fighters. And they're colliding. It's a colossal fight.
Now we've kind of touched on this a bit with DC, but changing gears here for a moment. Cormier had said this week rather, that his plan of retiring at 40 will be pushed back due to an injury for a little bit of time. He said that he's not waiting for Brock, but like you said, that's the obvious big payday for Daniel. Stipe keeps campaigning for the rematch. There's that bad blood with Jon Jones. That still exists. Assuming he does have 1 more fight or 2 more fights before he retires, what's the matchup that you really want to see? It is Brock.
Okay, so if it's not Brock, then for me, Stipe's waiting, and I don't know why he's waiting. I think he should fight like everybody else does. When you get starts like he did, most people, they don't wait for a rematch. They fight somebody else and get back on the wagon. What happened when happened to Cain with Dos Santos? Cain didn't wait for a rematch. He went out there and beat up whoever they asked him to beat up, and he got back to the title shot. And that's what you should be doing instead of saying I'm waiting. Unless it was a fight, but when things happen, people want to see entertaining fights, and if you have a wipeout, then the people don't necessarily want to see a rematch. It comes down to what they're willing to pay, and this is not a sport. It's more of an entertainment, prize fighting, so whoever gets the biggest prize is the one that's going to, fight. So if you're not going to draw the eyeballs to the screen and you're going to fork out your dollars, then the UFC is not going to put you in there. So it really comes down to whoever the UFC is offering you.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Just the when you consider everything that these guys go through on the day-to-day, and then to finally get in there and compete, you should really only be looking for the best monetary gains for yourself as, an individual in this sport. But, just to recap there, if it's not going to be Brock, you would say maybe Stipe if he gets another win?
Yeah, maybe Stipe, for sure, or hey, who knows, maybe Jones at heavyweight, if it's not Brock. But I want it to be Brock, and then he should be done. That's what I want. I've always wanted that. Every time you guys ask me, I want him to fight Brock Lesnar, make the biggest payday that he deserves, and then retire like he wants to.
Right.
That's what we, as all his coaches, want that for him. We don't want him to fight past Brock, and Brock is not in the table yet. But hopefully, we keep pushing for it. Maybe it'll happen. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of moving parts there and a lot of uncertainty, but I agree with you, man. Hopefully that fight gets made and DC gets that huge payday that he's long overdue for. But before we get back to Sunday in Phoenix, I just wanted to discuss Khabib for a moment. He's publicly expressed not wanting to fight Nevada anymore, and that the politics played a big part in the Nevada State Athletic Commission ruling. Do you agree with him on that?
Yes, I agree with him on that, because number one, if you listen to the Nevada, they're saying, they condoned what he did. They fined him $500,000. But at the same time, too, they want him to do an anti-bullying thing so he can come back in April. But yeah, and then they're talking about trying to see what they can do about stopping fighters from doing what Conor did. So, okay, so here you are. You're outright saying that Khabib was being bullied. You're right. That's what they're saying. And then they want Khabib to do an anti-bullying program?
Right.
It doesn't make sense. And then you're charging him $500,000, okay, and Conor gets $50,000, but yeah, he's the one that started the bullying in the first place, and all Khabib did was stood up for himself, but you want him to do an anti-bullying program. So Khabib's going to tell you, F you, I am not doing that. I go, yeah, you got this all wrong. I'm not the one that started this. I'm just the one that finished it. Okay, number one. Number two, you have a situation where his coaches, cornermen, sparring partners, they went in after Khabib jumped the cage, okay? So his cousin jumped the cage, looking to see what he can do to help Khabib. And what does Conor do when he jumps the cage? Conor sucker punches him. So then he fights with Conor, and then he gets fined for a year, and then $25,000. He didn't make that kind of money. Why are they finding him so much money? And Zubaira is looking around trying to see where he can help. He's not swinging at anybody. And then what does he do? Conor swings at him too. So it's kind of like, you find them a year. It's like, if anybody should have got a year, should have been Khabib, not the people that came in to try to help him. So I think they did them wrong too. So that's another reason why he's not happy.
Yeah.
So that's why he's very honorable. And he said, "Hey, I will not fight until my brothers are out of their fine suspension too, and I will not fight in Nevada." And you know what? As much as I hate it because I love gambling, I don't blame him.
Right. Well, Dana has said that Khabib can't sit out till November as a champion, but I agree with you, man. It's pretty noble of him to protest the 1-year suspension of his teammates and not compete until November. But do you think the UFC is going to maybe put the pressure on him here? And do you think they'd actually try to strip Khabib if he refuses to cooperate and compete before November?
Well, who knows what the UFC is going to do? They got to run a company. The ball needs to keep rolling. So if they're in a good situation and they realize the magnitude of how big of a star Khabib is, personally, they will give him his thing, let him keep his title because they know he's in the right. They know he's in the right. So I don't see the UFC stripping him because of this. I don't see that at all. I think worst case, the UFC may do an interim title, and they'll probably do it between the two people that deserve it, which would be Tony and Dustin. But the thing is, would Tony do an interim title? He's already, in his mind, the interim champion, so
right. Why
would Tony want to, so if they say, Tony, defend your interim title, maybe that would entice him, but in that regard, that's the only thing. But if Tony declines, then what about Alaquinta and Dustin fighting for an interim title? If they do that. I'm just me talking, but...
No, you're right. There, again, just like with every other situation, there's a lot to consider there. But you said, I believe a few weeks ago, that you'd like to see a rematch with Conor, and that it would be the biggest money fight in history. It's hard to argue with you on that one, man. And obviously you're looking out for the best monetary gain for your athlete. But how likely do you think that it is that fight actually happens again for a second time?
Not likely. Khabib is not about the money. I am. Khabib is no, coach. He doesn't deserve it. Let him work his way back up. So no, Khabib's not about that fight. But this is the thing, though. The UFC is in control of who they offer. You don't get to pick and choose who you want. This company runs a company for a reason. They tell you who's available to fight. You say yes or you say no. If you say no, well, okay, then that they offered you a fight. They're obligated to offer it. If you decline it, that puts your contract as settled. So whether they do an interim title with somebody else or strip you of the title, that's within their rights. They don't do anything that's not within the contract. They always follow the contracts. So that's what I'm thinking. So if they offer Conor and Khabib said no, well then, I don't know what happened, but I know Khabib would want to say no. But, you never know. Anything's possible, right?
Yeah, and again, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. Like, get the biggest payday, man. Go for that money. But
yeah, that's what I want.
But aside from Conor, there's been some talk about GSP dropping down to fight Khabib. Of course, you've got Tony, Dustin Poirier, as you mentioned, both waiting for their chance. What's the second best option, in your opinion, from your point of view?
Oh, from prize fighting?
Yeah. GSP, yeah, absolutely. Did I lose you there? Okay. Yeah, so GSP, do you think, have you heard any rumblings of this? I mean, do you think that could become a reality?
No, I haven't heard any rumblings. The only rumbling I heard that was more anything was a Mayweather.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too, huh? How did that even come about? I mean, do you think that first of all, obviously Khabib has the wrestling credentials to go with anybody in mixed martial arts, but the boxing world, you would be happy seeing him step into that realm?
Now, if that's what he wants to do, we'll prepare to go with it, and we'll train him, how we need to try to get a victory, It ain't no easy task, that's for damn sure.
Right.
But, Khabib is up for the challenge. If it got presented, he's up for it.
Yeah. And again, like we were talking about with paydays, it doesn't get any better than Floyd Mayweather.
No, hell no. That's the biggest payday you could make.
Absolutely.
But it's the biggest challenge that Khabib can make. That's why he'd be up for it.
True. And that speaks volumes to his character. So we'll have to see how all that shakes out. But all right, Javi, you've been more than generous with your time, man. Let's wrap this thing up. Getting back to Sunday in Phoenix, for all the fans out there that are eagerly awaiting the main event on ESPN, how does this fight play out, and how big of a statement do you think Cain Velasquez makes in his return?
I feel he's going to make a huge statement, but I never predict rounds. I always go 5-round mauling, so I go 5 rounds to 0. Cain's hand's going to be raised, and people are going to go the champ's back.
And in conclusion, is Cain the heavyweight champion yet again before the end of 2019?
Everything being equal, thinking hopefully Daniel gets his one fight, hopefully soon, maybe summertime, I don't know. Then, yeah, I would say Cain gets his title back before the end of the year.
Awesome. All right, listen, thanks again, Javi. Best of luck to you guys this weekend, and I hope we can catch up again soon. Very much looking forward to this fight and the return of one of your greatest pupils that you've had over the years. You have a great day, brother.
Thank you, buddy. All right, thanks for having me.
All right,
bye.
Later. Always a pleasure to speak with Javi. I know all you guys will be tuning in to watch Cain return to action tonight on ESPN. Very dangerous opponent. But if there's anything we know about Cain Velasquez is that he is a conqueror. But let's keep it moving like we always do. BJPenn.com radio, the fighter's voice. Closing out this episode, the bad boy himself, Leonard Garcia. All right, Penn Nation, please welcome back to the show longtime MMA veteran and one of the most exciting warriors to ever compete in combat sports, the one and only Leonard Bad Boy Garcia. Thanks for joining us today, Leonard. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, buddy. It's good talking to you guys again.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Let's waste no time, though. We'll jump right into it. February 2nd, you made your Bare Knuckle FC debut in Cancun against fellow MMA veteran Julian Lane. You stopped him in the second round. Give us your thoughts on the fight and your performance.
Man, I thought it was a great fight. I thought it was it was a solid outing. Of course, I had a little rust early on in the beginning, and Julian he clipped me with the good shot, and he woke me up, and he made me really start listening to my coaches in the corner. I didn't go nuts like I used to. So I think a lot of good things came of it. I did frown on the fact that the weight was an issue. I think the weight was 165 is a little too heavy for me. Me trying to keep pounds on instead of just getting into shape like I usually do was something that I didn't enjoy. And I think it's just in the future. I don't think I'll ever fight that heavy again, but I don't know.
Right, so it sounds to me like, regardless of the weight situation, obviously you're happy to get the win, but you're even more happy to kind of to show some patience in your fighting style.
Absolutely. I feel like most of the time if the old Leonard would have got dropped like that, you would have seen fiery blaze of glory, you know what I mean, coming out. And, I really felt like I picked my shots well in the second round. I was able to land a really good couple. I knocked him down twice. I think the first knockdown was more of a push, but if that right hand would have landed, I think it would have went down anyways because his feet were so off. But I knew he was going to come after me, And I think I felt like I didn't go nuts and didn't close my eyes and just start swinging for the fences. I kept my punches pretty clean, and it showed, man. I was able to land a really good left hook at the end of that first round that had Julian hurt really bad, man. How he got up from that, like, God dang, that dude, he's tough, man. Because that left hook, it landed so hard that I felt it like into my shoulders and back. Like, it was a very good connecting punch, and I thought he was gone, man. And he got up and he made the count, and it blew me away that he was able to do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, I'm sure it was good for you to be able to fight a guy with that kind of tenacity and somebody who's willing to come back like you have many times in your career. But I'm wondering, did Julian do anything in there that surprised you at all?
Man, he hit harder than I thought he was going to hit. I don't know if that was because of the bare knuckle or because of the size. I was, however, taken by the amount of power he was able to generate, and with pretty short punches. He was pretty crisp. He wasn't swinging the way I'd seen him swing. He used to duck into. That's why I was working an uppercut. I'd noticed in a lot of his other fights, he'd duck every time he'd throw a punch. And wherever he went to train, I guess they cleaned that up. He didn't lunge as much this round, this fight. So his technique and his power were two things that I had a lot of respect for after the fight.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, as you're mentioning, Julian, tough guy. You did get the finish, but was this the heaviest you've ever fought? 165?
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yeah. My wife kept telling me, during the build-up of the fight, even when we were both at 65, I didn't get much heavier. Afterwards, I think I weighed in at 65, and then that night I weighed in at 71 or 72. So I didn't get much heavier, but I just, having to carry that much weight, I didn't get ripped. You know what I mean? I didn't get cut up like I used to.
Right.
And it's just of course it didn't bother me, but my wife kept telling me he looks pretty big, and I was like, no, he's not. He don't look that, he's muscular, but he don't look that big. I remember when we got in there, and we're sitting right across from each other, and of course they sing the national anthem and then the Mexican anthem, and I'm sitting there looking at him the whole time. We're staring each other out, and I was like, God dang it, she was right again. He is big. But yeah, no, it is a heavyweight class. I do feel like I have the power to be at that in that division. I really do feel like all the guys that I sparred with that were around that weight, I felt well with. I didn't feel like their power was very, very like a detrimental thing that's going to ever keep me from fighting at that weight class again. It's just my wife's kind of against it, and I like being a little more cut up, and I think 55 is more of a smarter weight class, anyways.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you there at all. Considering the majority of your career was at 145. But what was it like for you to step back into a new discipline of combat sports after being away for so long?
Yeah, man. We were talking about that earlier, and I was having a conversation with one of my coworkers, and we were saying, if I was a betting man, you had been off for 4 years, you're kind of a family man, you were working, to come back and be able to do what you did is pretty crazy. It's unbelievable. And, it felt great though, man. Those years off, I think my body was kind of damaged for all the years of fighting, and all the years off, everything was healed up. I felt very fluid. I hired a personal chef to bring the weight down, dieting, not so much cutting. His name was Dan. So it was Dan's diet, the same guy that Cowboy worked with to make his weight cut. And I don't know if it was just the food that he was cooking or just my body had been recovered. But man, I felt like a 20-year-old kid again, man. I felt great. My mobility was really good. Of course, I was taking supplements and joint relief and all that stuff because I thought I was an old man. I had the Bengay ready to go, everything. Hell, man, I didn't need it. It actually felt good to get in there. When I was training locally here in Odessa and in Plainview, when I was in Texas, I was training locally, and I was training at a couple local gyms. And there's local talent around here. They're not, of course, not high level MMA fighters or high level boxers, but there's some pretty decent guys who are trying to climb the ranks. And I was doing really well against them, like a little too well actually. So my confidence was like through the roof whenever I went to the ranch with Cowboy and those guys. And the first day I got there, man, they shot me down like I don't even know. I got the piss beat out of me, man.
Reality check.
Everybody there was just running through me, man, and I was like, holy crap. So my plan was to go to the ranch for a couple weeks and then come back out here for a couple weeks and then go back out to the ranch for the last 2 weeks, so it's going to be, it was a 10-week camp, 4 weeks local, 6 weeks, where I was going to split it up between here and the ranch. And after that first day, I called my wife and I was like, listen, I'm staying here. I'm not going anywhere, man. If I want to win a fight, these are the people I got to be around. Everybody beat me up. And she was like, are you serious? And I was like, oh, just wait till you see my face. I FaceTimed her and she was like, that happened today? And I was like, yeah. And one day, one sparring session against 5 people, 5 rounds, and this is what happened to me. And she was like, oh, yeah, okay, you can stay. So we figured it all out with work and got everything going. So I was able to stay at the ranch for 6 weeks and really get ready. And Cowboy was in camp, so it really helped me out. And, it turned out to be a really great thing. But, man, like you said, it was surreal on how well it was to be back. And then the fact that it was just all boxing made it even better.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Obviously, you did the 6 weeks at the BMF ranch, but it must have been really nice to just focus on your hands and not be stuffing takedowns for weeks upon weeks.
Yeah, getting in there, of course, Kenya Enriquez, she's a world champion, WBC champion. She's the ranked 6 pound-for-pound female fighter in the world. She was there, and she kind of took on the task of working with me in Cowboy boxing. And I don't know why it had to be a woman to teach us that we actually listened, but it really worked out, man. Like I really, because a lot of times, a lot of the other coaches, the male coaches, I'd be like, well, you get in there and spar with me. Then I'd hit them, with a really good shot, and they'd be like, you know what? You got really good punching power. Let's just work on that, and with her, she didn't care how hard I hit. She was like, you need technique, It's like, let's forget about the old Leonard. Let's forget about all this ducking your head and just chunking punches every time you get in trouble. Let's get some technique in you. Let's work these things. And, man, like I said, she drilled it into us for 6 weeks, and then it ended up working out in the end. So it was great, man. But working on just straight boxing and, all the running, road work, everything that I had to do, it was a whole lot better than wrestling, man. I always hated that, and I'm glad that I'm able to compete without having it in there.
Yeah, last time we spoke, you told me that, you were kind of tailor-made for bare-knuckle boxing and that you would wish it had come around earlier in your career, but now that the first fight is under your belt, does it feel like it came at the right time for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I got more wisdom, with my age, and I still got that, I got that old man strength, I guess is what they call it.
Right.
Man, I feel great. It definitely did. It came at the right time. I think, getting in there and getting my feet wet with a guy like Julian was the best thing. And, I seen today that they signed Artem Lobov.
Yeah.
That's an interesting fight, man. I mean, that dude scraps. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Now that was something I wanted to get to here in a bit, but you guys got moved to the main event the day before the fight, correct?
Yeah. So
what happened there?
We show up there, and we're at a press conference, and everything, like all the interviews from everybody, they're not talking about anybody else's fight but mine and Julian's,
Right.
They're like, oh, well, they're asking Julian, like, aren't you the BKB middleweight champion? Didn't you beat Jimmy Sweeney? And they're like, Leonard, you used to throw down, are you ready to scrap with somebody that's been throwing down for this long? And he wants to throw down, you want to throw down. So it's like we were generating all this attention. And then the World Boxing Foundation is in Mexico, So they were present for the fight, and they said, "Well, wait a minute, are you you're the BKB middleweight champion?" And he was like, "Yeah, he brings all this stuff out. He shows them that's what it was." And they're like, "Listen, man, all this attention and everything that's going around these two guys, and all these questions are being directed to them. Why are they not the main event?"
Right.
And Dave, of course, responds. He says, "Well, they're the co-main because the main event is for the title." And the World Boxing Federation guy said, "Well, hell, he's the champion in England, so we don't have a Latin American champion. So I say we just sanction the fight, and we make it for a title belt, and we make this fight the main event. That's what makes sense to me." And me and Julian are sitting there listening to all this stuff going on. We're looking at each other like, God dang, I think we're going to fight for a title, man. And, and like I said, man, it was cool between me and him. It was real respectful. He had a lot of respect for me. I had respect for him. We knew what was going to happen. We knew we were going to try to take each other's heads off. So we took everything and we acted professional, and we knew what was going to happen. So, when they said it was going to be for a title, we both got really excited and got our hopes up, and both of us were really looking to be, champions at the end of the night. But unfortunately, only one person can kind of walk away with it. So it worked out that it was me.
Absolutely, and what better guy to finally get a belt like that? That's pretty cool though. So all of that came to fruition the week of the fight.
Yeah, that day, the day before the fight, man, at the press conference is when it happened.
Wow. That's a nice surprise. That's a nice surprise.
a little extra added pressure. It worked out.
Now, the card was billed as USA versus Mexico, and I'm wondering, what was it like for you to represent your Mexican heritage in Cancun, and what was the support like from the crowd?
Man, it was really, really, really good. Everything worked out, man. Cancun was amazing. I had a couple interviews because people know my political beliefs, and I'm from the States. I'm a Republican. There are a couple things that people were like, "Man, well, how are you representing Mexico?" And that's the thing. And I was like, "Listen, man, the people who are in Mexico and are flourishing in Mexico and living life, the people who are doing the regular things and stuff, they don't want to come to the United States. Yeah, our money's worth more, but man, they're living life. We're in Cancun. The people that are there want to stay there. You know what I mean? They're it's the border jumpers, the people who are trying to sell dope. The people who are have a really bad life that are trying to break the law to come over. Those are the people that have a problem. And because of where we were at, I felt like it wasn't a border town. We're deep in Mexico. The people were really supportive. They knew the story that my great-grandfather was from Mexico. He crossed over to the United States. He became a legal citizen. Of course, he then in turn had my grandfather, and then my grandfather, who was born in Waco, Texas, started our family and, everything else. So, I got to tell that story a bunch of times. They understood why I was representing Mexico, even though I was an American, because, I was Mexican-American. So it really worked out, man. I enjoyed it. I really felt like I represented the country well. And, at the end of the day, they got a great main event. Everybody was happy, man. So it really worked out.
Yeah, so it sounds like you got a little bit of blowback in the beginning, but once you explained your story, everybody kind of jumped on board and was accepting of that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it was weird because all the USA guys, Joe Riggs, Chris Lytle, Beltran. They're all like, Beltran was on the Mexico side with me, so me and him were like, this is kind of different. Like we're American, but we're representing Mexico. So it was kind of cool, man. And the way that it worked out in the end, there's got to be. It always makes for a better show or whatever selling antics when it's this side versus this side. So man, I just ran with it, and I think it ended up being really well. I enjoyed it, we ended up winning, man. So it worked out.
Absolutely, and like you're saying, really cool experience for you. What I found out to be really cool as well was seeing you embrace Cowboy after the win. That was really something special. You guys have an incredible bond over the years, and it's only fitting that he was there to support you and watch you shine and get this title.
Yeah, man. It was real cool. We had a solid training camp for his. I was there for the last 3 weeks of his training camp, and was really. Got in there and did whatever the heck they needed me to do, man. If they needed me to shoot in on him or do other things, I did everything that he needed to prepare for his fight, and then him able to come back and help me get ready for mine even after he had fought. He didn't take very much damage in that fight, so he was able to get back and even sparred with me a week after his fight, just to help me get ready. And, the fact that him, Joe Schilling, and Jafari, and also Kenya and Pato were all able to make it to the fight and actually go and support me all the way in Mexico. Everybody knows, man, Cowboy's my brother. And hell, you can tell by, any time you're around us, man, you'll notice we don't see each other as friends. We're brothers, man, and that's just the way it worked out.
For sure. So what's next for you, man? Do you plan on defending that title anytime soon?
We're working on a deal right now where middleweight may not be the right, like we were talking about earlier.
Right.
It may not be the right step for me. Maybe lightweight and maybe possibly even featherweight. I don't know if I ever want to cut down that low again, but if I could win a 55 title and a 45 title, that would, cement exactly what I've been saying all along. Like, this sport was tailor-made for me. It was something that I wish, had been around for a long time. But I'd still be able to make my mark in the sport and, be a pioneer and show, that this is exactly what I was here to do. So, like I talked about some of the talent that they're signing now, there's a lot of interesting fights, man. It's so many different weight classes, and being that I have a little leverage because I am a middleweight champion, I think that leverages my power to be able to ask for this fight to be for a title or that fight to be for a title,
right, or
a number one contendership type fight, at that weight class or whatever it is. But I don't see, I don't see a long future in this. I'm really tied into the company, that I'm tied to. I'm like, that's my bread and butter. That's how I make a living.
Of course.
Fighting is great, and the pay, of course, with anything, man, it could always be better, but it is what it is. And I just, like I said, I'm about to be 40, so I don't know, man.
So this is for you. This is like about legacy at this point. It sounds to me like you want to go try to become maybe the first ever champ in bare knuckle and cement your legacy.
That's it. I want to be able to I want those belts when I retire. If I'm the champion and I retire, I want people to fight for that belt and be like, man, that's the belt that Leonard held.
Right.
So at this point, that's what it's more about for me, more than actually thinking, hey, I'm going to have a 5-year run at this. I'm going to teach everybody, that I'm going to, that this is my sport. But I mean, like I said, every fight is different. Every fight, my tune may change. I might get another knockout and think, oh, hell, I could do this for another 5 years, You
right.
never know.
It's hard to walk away from that high, man.
Yeah, fighting is such a volatile sport. And, it's one of those things, man. Maybe I'll be around for a long time. Maybe I'll just be around to chase the legacy of it. But right now, man, I'm very happy. I'm ecstatic about the way the fight went. I really love the style of the fight. I love the fast pace. I love the fact that it's all punches. I really enjoy it, man. So everything right now, as far as the future for me, it's based fight to fight, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Right, and it's a bright future indeed. But as far as challengers go, man, the promotion, like you're talking about, continues to sign big names. Like you mentioned earlier, they just announced Artem Lobov and Jason Knight. They'll be fighting. So chances are you're going to have some great opportunities for potential matchups going forward. I'm sure that, assuming you can negotiate the weight class, but how cool would it be for you to fight Artem Lobov and Cowboy fights Conor? That's a really cool storyline, if you ask me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And like I said, I've got nothing but respect for that dude. He likes to scrap. Of course, I've never sparred with him. I think Cub fought him, so I can get a little insight from what Cub thinks about, his fighting style. But at the end of the day, man, you won't know until the guy's swinging at you and you're swinging at him, so we can say everything we want. I am very interested in what his fight with Jason Knight is going to look like. I will be watching that one closely because, right away his name was the guy that jumped up on my radar for that exact reason you're talking about. My brother's fighting his brother, so, we might have to it might become a family affair. So.
Well, like I said, man, I think that would be the perfect storyline. That's the no-brainer fight to make, assuming he gets past Jason Knight. You got to make that fight. It's a no-brainer for me. But give us your thoughts on the matchup between Cowboy and Conor. What an incredible matchup it will be, and a long overdue payday for Cowboy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, if it is for the interim title, the way that it's been rumored, that's something that's gotten away from Cowboy time and time again. I think right now with his head where it's at, life being the way it is, and his ability peaking at the right time, I think it's perfect timing for him. Conor, Conor's Conor. That dude is going to bring the fight to anybody, you know what I mean? And he's dangerous. The dude hits, I don't know. Like I said, I've never been hit by him, but I've seen what he's done. What he did to Aldo was amazing. And, several other guys, man, have fallen short every time he lands punches. So is it a dangerous fight? Hell yes. Would Cowboy have it any other way? Hell no. I think timing is everything. I think this fight is happening at the perfect time. And, when it does go down, if it is for the title, the interim title, to be able to fight Khabib. You talked about paydays. Cowboy could set himself up, man, in them two fights and really not only cement his legacy and really put a stamp on his career, but also, set his family up, man, and put himself in a situation where whatever he decides to do in life after that will be, decisions that he can make good decisions. He can make, not so great decisions, but he's got the options to be able to do what he wants to because he's set up financially. And who doesn't want that for their own brother,
Absolutely. The luxury of being set up for life. And you make a great point there because, everybody talks about let's say motivated BJ Penn, C-level Cain Velasquez. I keep hearing more and more people talk about this, and I agree with them 100%. Cowboy, after having a child, is something to behold, man.
Yeah, Absolutely, man. You see it in him. You guys see it in him when he's fighting. We see it in him at home, man. Even in
Right.
camp. It's just it definitely switched something in him. And I mean, hell, that's the best thing in the world, man. That's what you want. You want that motivation. On the same token, Conor's got that same thing going. So
True.
And it's just like I said, I think timing for both guys, it's really going to work out, and I think it's definitely the fight to make. I know Conor's been making waves, making announcements about, he tweeted something about Cowboy, and now he's tweeting something about Nate Diaz, which is good for us, man, because he's trying to put his hands in too many pots, and you can't do that, man. You got to worry about the task in front of you, and you deal with that. And right now, I think Cowboy's the task in front of him, and he's going to have a hard time dealing with that.
For sure. Well, I certainly hope that fight gets made, and I certainly hope that you can fight Artem around the same time. But listen, Leonard, always appreciate your time, man, and always a pleasure speaking with you. In conclusion, tell all the fans out there what they can expect from you this year in 2019 with bare knuckle boxing.
Well, guys expect exactly what you've seen. Every time they told me, man, I think your fight was the most exciting fight of the night. And I was like, man, I guess that's kind of my MO. So you guys know what I'm going to do, man. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to get in front of somebody, and I'm going to put myself in the danger zone because I want to get him out of there. And, that's what the fans pay for. They want to see two guys in the danger zone. They want to see who comes out the best. That's what I'm going to give you every time. So 2019, man, expect a couple more exciting fights, and then we'll see what happens, and we'll see if we're still in it in 2020, and we'll keep talking from then on.
Absolutely. It certainly has been your bread and butter all along, and I got to tell you, brother, this all couldn't have happened to a better guy. I'm very happy for you and about everything here and how it's all playing out with this new adventure for you. I look forward to plenty more success from Bad Boy Garcia. Much love, and we'll catch up again soon, man.
All right, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate you guys.
Hey, always a pleasure, man. Have a great night, bud.
You too, buddy.
Later. You guys got to love Bad Boy. Great individual, awesome fighting style, truly a fan favorite and a warrior at heart. Got a lot of love for the guy, worked with him for many years. Very exciting prospects for potential matchups going forward for him. Again, Artem Lobov, while Cowboy Cerrone is getting ready for Conor McGregor. That would be an incredible storyline. But that's it for us for this episode, Penn Nation. We'll be back in a few days with more great guests, more great conversations. BJPenn.com radio, the fighter's voice. Make sure you guys follow us on social media, follow the website on social media, set up alerts, stay up to date in the sport that you love of mixed martial arts. Everything you crave from the sport you love, BJPenn.com. We have got you covered, guys. Until next time, my friends, peace out, everybody.